thinking our grandmas were happy is a product of women keeping their stories private.
Yes. Please go back and watch this prior video because she has spilled all of grandma's tea right on granny's kitchen floor. Girl, if you don't reach around and get a rag and clean off grandma's floor and close the door because you letting the air out. But all jokes aside, this needed to be said. This needed to be said, and it needs to be understood that the traditional woman is the one who created the modern woman that you guys love to complain about. You were coddled, and you don't know the real. About 2 years ago, I had this very conversation with a guy on Facebook, and I cannot wait to rub it in his face. I tried to explain to the man that the subtle cues of unhappiness, burdens, and fear and codependency that was on Granny, only another woman could feel because we were in those circles. We heard what was behind her voice. We heard what was behind her silence. She also was the one who pushed us into education. But the way these guys fantasize tradition and how miserable grandma was most of the time, they would never understand. And they don't understand why we don't want to go into the same level of misery. What they got is a soul food mindset. But let me tell you the truth about soul food, okay? They got the movie of soul food in their head. Granny love to cook. She got the sugars. She take care of the entire family. She carries her husband burdens. She don't embarrass him in public. He creates chaos for her. She covers it up. She cleans it up. And she does it as a dutiful wife. The bitch that y'all couldn't stand in this movie who was playing the character of Terry, she characterized as the woman who is born out of Big Ma's pain. She is born out of Big Ma's pain. She is the one who takes the bull by the horns and she gets the fulfillment of the unfulfilled desires that Big Ma never got an opportunity to get to. And it was Big Ma's pride and lack of education that did not allow her to have those opportunities. So the only way she could enjoy life is through her husband. And the way Terry was dragged and despised in this movie when she was carrying every fucking body on her back. I say all that to say, if you want to see Big Ma's rage, a product of what Big Ma's rage is, Terry from Soul Food characterizes that perfectly. The traditional woman created the modern woman out of lack of fulfillment and walking depression. Hey, you don't have to believe it.
Not running that game on me again. What, do you expect me to bail Lem out of jail too?
Now come on, Terry. Lem doesn't have anything to do with this, okay?
How we can pay for Mama's bills is by selling the big house.
What? We are not selling the house.
Mama and Daddy saved their whole life for that house, Terry. We can't even agree on anything as small as Sunday dinners. Nobody's paying for the taxes or the utilities except me. And now we can finally put Uncle Pete in a home like we've been talking about for years.
We are not putting Uncle Pete in a home. Mama would kill us.
You are tripping. I'm selling the house.
You're not selling the house.
I am the guardian of her estate. That means I make the decisions.
Come on now, Terry, listen to what they're saying, all right? Your mama worked hard to keep that house in the family. For everyone. For you and your family.
Oh, fuck the family! The family? I let the family in my house. You know what? The family fucked my husband. Yeah, Faith fucked my husband. What are you going to say, huh? Terry, what?
Talk about
Can we talk about what?
There's always this underlying contempt for the untethered, successful Black woman. In the movie Soul Food, you can see how her two sisters are treated with humanity. One, because even though they are successful in their own way, they're still extremely man-centered. So they are treated, the sisters, Vivica Fox and Nia Long, are treated with humanity and respect from the men, right? As long as they're willing to put up with all the BS, they are given some sort of credence, right? Now, Terry is treated like she is only as useful as she can be used. But the contempt is there, and you see it all in Vivica Fox's actions and behaviors. Child, they cannot stand Terry's ass, but they'll always have their hand out. Make no mistake about that. And don't think for 1 second the husband's actions is not calculated. You won't prioritize me, my needs, my dreams, and my whims, I'm gonna go F somebody else. I'm gonna embarrass you. And even when she ran into the room, nobody was willing to console her right away. It was like, I ain't touching that bitch. You touching that bitch? I ain't touching that bitch. I mean, that's fucked up. But the contempt for the successful, untethered woman, black woman, is a program. A program, people.
Him said like granddaddy was so happy. He stayed drunk. Okay, let's talk about this because I 100% agree. So if we understand that granddaddy needed to stay inebriated, which means he needed to escape to be able to be happy under the conditions he was under, and then grandma needed to bury her head in religion and pretend that certain things weren't happening, why then would we go ahead and push that as the solution to the current problems that we're having now? It lacks creativity, it lacks authenticity, and it lacks the ability to properly characterize our unique situation as descendants of transatlantic slave trade captives. This is why I cannot take red pill seriously. As older millennials who are anywhere from the age of 30 to 40 years old, or any Gen Xer who hasn't necessarily drunk the Kool-Aid of, this quintessential traditional family structure, knowing that shit is like super miserable for most people. You saw what was going on in that household. Okay? Now, many will say, well, that's your experience. It's anecdotal. It doesn't apply to the larger populace. And I'm going to call caps on that. I call bullshit. If you look at our history in this country economically, many of them went from slavery to sharecroppers, intense poverty, working in industrial, redlining. Historically, we were barred from economic development. And our only way to have some resemblance of stability was copying what we saw the dominant society do in order to live a more fruitful or financially productive life. But all the while, these solutions lack creativity because they did not incorporate anything that was unique to us in our experience as Black people in the U.S. So I think it's irresponsible and ignorant to look back 75 years and not actually do a complete analysis of the situation and provide appropriate solutions that incorporate our unique experience as Black people in this country. Let's be so fucking for real. Grandpappy had families all across town. Grandmama buried her head in religion and toxic amnesia of her experiences. They were miserable. Okay? Period. I don't care how many times they let pastor lay hands on them. They were fucking miserable. And this is not isolated. So we need to get to think tanking.
Yep, I agree. I absolutely agree. Because a Black man who has not done the inner work, and please don't get in my comments cherry picking. I said, and I'm saying explicitly, and receive it exactly as I said it. A Black man that has not done the inner work is a dangerous man to attempt to be in a relationship with. Okay, he deals with all levels of stress for just being born in the body that he was born in. He turns on himself often for being a Black man because of the system of racism. And what components deal with being a Black man? Having melanin, being harassed by the police, feeling like he needs to be hyper vigilant everywhere he goes because he could get jacked. Okay? Feeling like his masculinity is always under fire. When you are dealing with a group of people with that level of deep wounding, you must understand that if they don't get the help that they need, they're going to have a twisted mindset when dealing with you. This is why divesting is so easy, because if a Black man chooses not to do the inner work, he's going to sustain that twisted mindset no matter how good he looks, no matter how much money he has. So we're not missing out on shit. So then when he goes to other neighborhoods other cities, other countries. He brings that same level of degeneracy with him. It can't be undone. So while other women are not as invested, nor do they understand what they really getting, they could for a while be able to see them in a different light. But as time goes on and as studies show, those women are not faring better. They're not making it across the marriage lines. Things are not happening to show that black women are the problem. It's to show that black men need to be in therapy and doing the inner work. So pretty much on this particular subject matter, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. We can read between the lines. We see the Trojan horse initiatives clearly, okay? They come to other neighborhoods, other countries, bucking and shining like a knight in shining armor, giving those women everything that they said that we asked for as black women, right? Just to spite us. But they're still the tormented souls that we complain about at the end of the day in the States. And if they don't do something about it, they're going to implode.
I'm so glad you asked this question because that's the $1,000,000 question. What is the definition of a Pookie? Because we've been slanging that word around like it's cane, right? When I think of a Pookie, I think of an emotionally vacant man. He has arrested development. He's morally bankrupt. He's a sexist, a colorist, a xenophobe, a texturist, ageist, okay? Anything that encompasses the misogynistic point of view. He's also the biggest fucking hypocrite that you ever did want to see. So you notice background, whether or not you got a record, whether or not you got six-figure income, Pookie is a state of mind. Pookie is also a huge hypocrite and a huge victim. Okay? Pookie makes such uneloquent arguments like feminism destroyed the black community, but then he will fail to contextualize this and talk about how deindustrialization caused the black man to become economically irrelevant to the black woman. Also, the components of the crack epidemic, the crime bill, and redlining. He's very one-sided about his personal bias as it relates to women. A Pookie will slam single mother homes, but never, ever, ever will you hear him say fatherless homes. Pookie lies about damn near everything, okay? Especially his character. And he cannot stand when you see beyond his pathetic little mask. He will go on and on about how he wants a traditional submissive wife and all women in America are 304s and he needs to go across seas to find good women. But yet, that same guy, you will catch him up in being fiscally irresponsible and getting caught up in sex tourism. A Pookie is full of shit. A full of shit ass dude. That's a Pookie. I hope this helps.